Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar this afternoon. So I am just going to make sure we've got all the attendees coming in okay. Sometimes it takes a minute to come in from the waiting room. I am Tim Flagg. I'm sure that I've met some of you before, and I'm delighted to be welcoming Stefano Piano, who is from Mindstone, our special guest today and our strategic partner at Mindstone. Stefano, welcome to the webinar today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's always great to see you. We often have some fascinating conversations about all aspects of AI and training and skills. And I think in this particular webinar, I'm really looking forward to you helping us to understand how we can build AI competency in the team. I'll hand over to you properly in a minute, but this is very much a topic which pretty much every week I have this conversation with our members, with other businesses, with lots of people talking around how do we build this AI competency. And I think it operates at many different levels. There's the leadership level. What do leaders need to know? How do they actually encourage, champion, support the transformation of AI adoption within an organization? And there's lots of I hear lots of bad stories or scare stories about that going wrong. But I think that's a leadership level. Then there's the sort of the manager level, the practitioner level in the middle there, and that's often very focused around operational tasks. So specific to their particular area of marketing or operations, but also the challenge of now that we're bringing in things like agents, what effect is that going to have on teams, and how do people adapt for that? But I think the really interesting part is at that sort of everyday AI, just getting the basic fundamentals. How do we ensure that the teams in all our organizations, they feel comfortable, that they have those skills that and the confidence? We often talk about confidence in those teams to be able to adopt it, because they're the ones who we really need to bring on this journey with us. So this is often what we end up talking about in terms of how do we change that culture, how do we change that mindset. And without further ado, Stefano, I'm going to pass over to you to help explore this theme today of building AI competency in the team.
Thank you, Tim. And you're right, it is pretty much from a skills perspective, the issue of the day, right? How is it that we can use these AI tools in the best possible way? And what we have found after working with more than 50 to 100 clients on both sides of the Atlantic is that the problem is more psychological than technical. The technology is readily available, not always intuitive, not always predictable. And the biggest challenge when it comes to adoption is actually pretty much, as you were implying, this mindset shift. And so bringing people to think of this technology as a teammate and not as a software, as a colleague and not as Google or another comparable software. And it is when people, when professionals start realizing that this is an interactive technology, that they start getting the benefits of AI adoption. And over the past year and a half, we have specialized as an organization, as a training company, to precisely deliver this workplace transformation. Tim, you are on mute.
Happens to all of us, doesn't it? Could you tell us a little bit more about Mindstone as well? Because I'm conscious that some people will have heard of Mindstone. Some people have probably been to some of your really fun practical AI meetups across the world. I was going to say across London, but across the world. We're now partnering with you to take those to the north of England as well. But could you give us a little bit more information about what Mindstone does?
Of course. So we were founded a bit more than 4 years ago. And the original idea was to create a Spotify for learning. So the original idea was to use AI technology to effectively bring education to the fingertips of pretty much every single person in the world. Then, of course, the world changed a lot faster than we were anticipating. And all of a sudden, AI became the biggest and most important skill and technology to facilitate learning itself. And so we did one of those very famous and rarely successful pivots in the startup jargon, which is when you change the mission of the company to something related but different. And we started delivering AI education at scale. And to do this, we have a comprehensive model that is made up of AI meetups. You mentioned the one in London, it's our base, and we have 150 people showing up pretty much every month in Clerkenwell. So if you have not been to one of the London meetups, please go. And what these are, they are places where and forums where people can get excited about AI. They see 2 live demos, one talk about the future, and they get inspiration about what AI could help them achieve. And on the back of that, many people go on and join our AI programs, and we have a B2C version of this, of our flagship program, AI Competency, but we also deliver them in organizations on a B2B basis. And those are the programs that deliver the highest impact because we are able to customize the curriculum and the entire learning journey to the needs of the organization so that the impact is maximized. And throughout this, our underlying methodology is based on live demonstrations. There's a lot of speculation and discussion around AI. What we are seeing is a gap in showing what AI can really do and how AI can become a teammate or a colleague, not just a better version of Google or another search engine. And this underlines our meetups, this live demonstration, and our learning programs. Our learning programs are centered around live sessions where people really get to see from world-leading experts what these AI tools can do.
Yeah, and I think that's the powerful thing for me. I often talk around the importance of being humble and the importance of being vulnerable in the learning process, because the technology is advancing so quickly that it's often very overwhelming for everybody, you know, right from the leadership down to the everyday people across the country. If they find it overwhelming, how do you keep up with this technology? And I think number one, you have to admit that. You have to admit we're all in the same boat. We're all feeling overwhelmed, whatever level, whatever expertise we have. And that's of humility and vulnerability then allows you to start learning. And this is why I think the practical side of things is also really important, because when you do that practical AI meetup, you actually see people in front of you doing a live demo, and you see how vulnerable they are, right? Because it could go horribly wrong. Well, most of the time, I've never seen that actually go too badly, but you can see them and you can see how they're thinking, and you can see the humanity of how people are having to deal with trying to use these tools. So in the spirit of doing a live demo, I think, Stefano, you've actually got something prepared for us that you're going to talk us through.
Yes, exactly. What I thought I would be doing, Tim, if you agree, is to actually show the Mindstone platform, which we and explain a little bit what our program is about. And then we will actually see an AI use case in action. So we will effectively live by what we preach as Mindstone. We are not just going to talk about our program and the education journey that we offer in an abstract way, but we are going to show to the attendees what we do, how our platform works, and then we will apply that learning that we get pretty much straight away.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's dive in.
Great. Let's get started. And I will get started by logging in on the Mindstone platform. So here you see all of the events that Tim was mentioning, the practical AI meetups. And we have a significant UK presence, being based in the UK. We've been here in
I love the
February.
ones that are in Leeds and Newcastle. I see have got a special colour to them because they're in partnership with UK AI, which is
Exactly.
really excited about.
We, I mean, all the pictures are AI generated, but the one with the UK AI are also AI tweaked because we made sure that the green matched the wonderful green of UK AI to signal our partnership. And Tim, you are the only partner that received that treatment. That's a testament of the strength of our relationship.
Oh, thanks, Stefano. Let's not tell too many other of your partners about that, but we're looking forward to Leeds in Newcastle.
And so I will start by logging in onto the platform. I will just give me a moment so that I can grab our the address that I've created for this demo. We will sign up. We will choose, in this case, a very boring password. And I will be customizing the platform for myself. So it will also be an opportunity to tell people a little bit more about what I do within Mindstone, which is head of community and partnerships. All right. You see, we are signed in now. And on top of the events, we also have access to our learning program. And you see, it's a Copilot AI competency. What I was saying earlier is that we always customize the program to the tech stack of the enterprise. And so for the purpose of this demo, I've chosen to show the Copilot customization, but we also work on ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, all of the main LLM providers. Quick look at the curriculum before we start. So every week would start with a live session. And we also upload the recordings on the platform. And this AI session is delivered by a world-leading coach. We're talking about someone with 10 or 15 years of experience in executive coaching from Harvard or Stanford or an equivalent institution who has now specialized in AI. And so the purpose of these live sessions, pretty much as you will see in a moment, is to showcase some AI workflows that will be relevant to most people. But then on the back of that live experience, people would spend a week learning on this platform. And this learning will be personalized, so tailored to the job of the user, not just any general profile, but really the job that the user has described.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do now is, if you agree, Tim, to run that personalization so that we see which is the first step that anyone would do when logging onto Mindstone. What do you say?
Yeah, let's have a look. I mean, I think for me that the challenge is often when you're trying to drive transformation in an organization is understanding the different levels of competency across your organization and then being able to personalize the learning to your different employees. So I think what I'm fascinated here by is the ability that you should use in the background that personalization engine to be able to do the hard work for that. So I think, yeah, I'm looking at this from two levels, both from the it's interesting how you're personalizing the learning, but also the content itself is quite interesting.
Yes, exactly. That is spot on, because unless we can really insert the learning into the everyday of every single person, we will not succeed. in the AI transformation. And that's precisely the problem that we're solving. So let's get started.
Actually, just while you're loading that, I think that was a really important word that you used just there. I just want to pull that one out. The everyday, because and this is something which I've had many conversations actually just in this last week about when people are trying to drive AI adoption within a company, it can't be a once and done. The analogy we often use is it's not like when you learnt Excel or when you learned PowerPoint and you went on a course and then that's it. You've kind of you've got all the skills, because it's more about behavioral change. It's more about building that habit, and unless you can do that, you're not going to get the confidence, or your team isn't going to get the confidence.
Exactly.
And also because it changes so much, they need both the confidence and the regular returning to that learning in order to be able to stay up with it. And really, that's the only way they're going to be able to address that
Exactly.
confidence and skill level.
Yeah, that is precisely spot on. And what we have found is that e-learning typically struggles in that respect, in creating that behavioral change. And that's unless it becomes highly personalized, pretty much as we will discuss and we will show right now. So you see the first question, what are the 5 to 8 most common tasks you do in a typical week? What would I do? And for this, I'm going to dictate. I'm going to use a dictation app. So I'm not going to use my hands. I'm not going to type. And this is one of the first things that we teach. And it really changes the way in which you talk to these models. Because when you speak, you think differently. You tend to reveal that information. And it turns out that that information is actually quite useful for the models to be effective. So you see, I'm now dictating. And it's quiet, it gets punctuation right, it gets the contractions right. It's quite accurate, really. I spend a lot of my time preparing presentation and proposals, talking to the organizers of our 20 meetups around the world. We organize 20 meetups a month. Then I prepare webinar discussions and panels to represent milestones. I send proposals and framework agreements to our partners. Okay, looks right. And we will see that what the platform will do with this, it will spot the right tasks, and then it tries to identify the tasks that take most time and feel most repetitive. And so it's really looking for easy wins here. So what are the areas where you could be using AI most effectively so that you could be saving time straight away? For the purpose of this, I will select the first two. And now, what the platform will do is to actually get into the process that I follow. So it will ask me about the inputs and then the outputs. And the reason for this is that only if it has this information about how it is that you actually work on a day-to-day, it will be able to give us some practical exercises and use cases that are relevant to the job of each and everyone. So let's select 1 and 2. Then it's asking me about the type of text. Let's select the first two. And this is probably, as you're seeing, not the webinar and then panel decks is not strictly speaking true, because I often do live demos, but for the purpose of this exercise, it will be useful. So
I think what's also useful here, Stefano, is that as you're doing this, obviously this is part of the course that you do, but I'm finding this really useful to think about how I can actually do this in my own day to day. So the
Yes.
logical approach to everything here. I'm thinking, yeah, I should do that. I should really think about where I can save time and identify that, and then do this of the logical structure. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah, if we do this again, Tim, you should be running the personalization so we can give you some use cases and practical exercises that you can yourself run if
Yeah.
you're keen on it. Okay, let's say that I follow this structure. And so this will go on for another 10 minutes, but I don't want us to spend all the time personalizing. So what I will do, I've got a paragraph ready because I've run this before. So I will take this paragraph and I will say, I already have the information here. I want you to stop questioning me and run the personalization experience. And this is effectively the outcome of the conversation if we were to continue for another 5 to 10 minutes. And so you see, we sort of forced the algorithm to get to the end of the task so that we can use the time on this webinar more effectively. And we will have more time to focus on actually showing you some of these use cases that the platform will identify. This is taking quite a bit, and this is normal because it's effectively taking this 200-300 words summary and it's feeding the summary to customize the all of the curriculum over the 4 weeks. So it's absolutely normal that it takes a while, in spite of the power and the advancements that we have seen in these models. Tim, as we go through this, any questions from the audience? Any questions from you?
That is a good question. So I should have asked the audience whether they wanted to ask any questions along the way. It does look like there is one question here. Are these courses accredited by the UK AI? And Mr. First, cheeky question, is there a discount for UK AI members? So yeah, well, thank you for the question. So yes, is the answer. Many of you will know that we have an AI skills framework that we put together and constantly update. That AI skills framework is based upon going and talking to hundreds of businesses across the UK about the specific things that they need to have in their business when it comes to AI. So everything from leadership to management and the practitioner skills, the operations, and then the specifics of the everyday confidence and trust that we're talking about. So our skills framework covers all of those. We've worked very closely with Mindstone to map their courses against that AI skills framework. And then, yes, we're able to say that it's certified and it matches those specific needs of the businesses. And yes, also there is a discount for UK AI members that we'll put at the end, and we can circulate afterwards if people are interested in that. So thank you for the question. Mark that as answer live and done. But yeah, please do put any other questions in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom. We're trying to keep this quite conversational, so we'll check back in and see if there's any other Q&As. But we'll also need a few minutes at the end when we can come back to Q&As. And we've got more demos coming up here, not just on the platform, but some of the other cooler stuff as well. So I'll hand back over to Stefano to pick up the conversation.
Thank you, Tim. So I am, if you give me one moment, because the personalization is finished to run, so I can share my screen again.
Just while you're doing that, then I'm just going to step in and just give a bit more context. I think the thing for me, which is really interesting, is as I said at the beginning, we're all going through this process of having to try and figure out how to drive adoption. So whether we are doing this in our own business, whether we're advising and consulting to businesses going through transformation. So I think what's really useful for me here is that we're able to sort of almost pick Stefano's brain because you're doing this with thousands of businesses across the world. And the platform you're showing is a sort of distillation of the best practices and the things you've learned there.
Exactly.
but beyond that, we're also able to get the context that you can share on this transformation. So rather than us just talking about transformation in a sort of like a generic, vague sort of way, this is actually very much the practical application of how to drive adoption. Although it's on a platform, we're actually looking at the stages you need to take. Back to you, Stefan.
Exactly. Exactly, Tim. Um, and we will be seeing some of the best practice principles in a moment once we have gone through the platform, and we will actually jump to the actual use cases. So this is the description of my job. I'm head of community and partnership. What do I do? I work closely with the CEO and commercial team. I manage the relationship with the organizers. I send reminders. I build proposals and presentations in Gamma to speak with the partners. And so on the basis of that description, which comes from the chat that we have seen, the entire learning experience is personalized. And we focus on 4 weeks as a reminder. And in each week, every person would go through some practical exercises that would match that job description. And I want to show you one. Not sure if of all the attendees have heard about chain of thought reasoning. I will introduce it briefly. It's effectively a technique that pushes the models to reason through problems step by step before providing an answer, rather than jumping straight into the question. And it basically leads to more accurate and more thoughtful responses. So the advantage is lower probability of hallucinations and an opportunity of opening the black box of AI models.
And oh yeah, I was just going to say, just on this concept, I love this whole area of development in AI models at the moment, because you can almost see the way in which the intellectual structure is developing. That we went from very sort of I'm going to say naive language models at the beginning, where they just would spit out answers. It was like very transactional, and now we're starting to try and rebuild the sort of intellectual steps like a human would, you know, because actually what's going on in our brain when we think of anything, there's a series of steps, and you're starting to see these things like chain of thought, where they're forcing the models to go through similar processes now, and we see it now in all the main LLMs have the little window at the top where you can see that chain of thought. What's fascinating for me is that you know, I studied experimental psychology way back in the day, and we would actually be looking at the way in which thought happens. And actually now the same science in experimental psychology and the physiology of the brain, that's now being queried. So programmers and the people building the models are now looking at those sciences to understand better how human thought works, so they can actually make the machine learning and the machine processing closer and mimic and imitate that. So I find this whole area of chain of thought absolutely fascinating. Anyway,
Exactly.
Stefano.
And let's remember that these models are sycophantic, which is a very technical and long word that effectively means that they tend to be people's pleasers. And so they will try to accommodate to your style. So what does this mean? That, I mean, this clearly, someone that writes a standard prompt like this, our Paris event has low RSVPs. What is it that we should be doing? The model would give a rash and superficial answer that just solves the problem. Whereas when we adopt chain of thought, solve this in a structured way, list assumptions plus the top 6 unknowns to clarify as the first step. Second, propose 3 solutions that we can adopt. You are pushing the model to be more thoughtful and more detailed in its thinking. And that will show up in the results that you produce. Which is pretty much a way of basically showing in practice, Tim, what the very interesting insights that you have shared. And so the platform would, and remember, this is all done automatically on the basis of that description. And the platform for this specific case would also give you the opportunity to practice through an AI coach. And so let's deliberately be bad students, and let's just copy and paste the prompt that this platform has given us for this exercise. And what we will see is that the AI coach on the right will give us a bad score. And the reason is that this prompt is, I mean, it's sort of clear what we want to do, but it's a little bit superficial and it doesn't give enough context. It's not rich enough for the model to produce something which is actually valuable. And so I expect us to receive a 4 or a 5, 4.8, precisely for the reasons that I mentioned. Not specific enough, doesn't give context, not rich enough. And that the platform would give an alternative or some improvement suggestions. And so through this process in the first week, people really get a sense of how much information and what kind of information they need to put into their prompts to be able to get to an AI outcome which is actually useful for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
so. Yes, Tim, tell me.
So go ahead. I was just going to bring a question in for Malcolm actually, because he'd asked a question. I think it was maybe based off what you'd said a couple of minutes ago. He says, Stefani, you mentioned that as individuals, we need to consider AI as colleagues, not software. When you are working with companies, have you seen that there are, have you seen any that are explicitly presenting AI tools as team members in their organizational structures? I think this is a really interesting psychological space. Doing this can reinforce to a team how AI is expected to be used for the business. And at the same time, an org chart with AI in it can trigger fear and uncertainty about losing jobs if the workforce is not related to.
Precisely. And so I think the question is really thoughtful and spot on because it has really identified the advantages and disadvantage of this approach. The advantage being it sort of legitimizes the AI tools. The disadvantage being it creates a spirit of competition, which is, okay, these are AI colleagues, so they might take my job one day. Why would I need to be working with them? Would you work with anyone who wants to take your job? Probably not. So the way we solve it is by introducing a narrative of AI augmentation. One of the first principles that we introduce in this week 1 is that the human always has to remain at the helm. And these AI tools are ultimately instruments and tools that people can use to augment themselves and become more productive. So we fall short. We use the AI as teammates analogy as a mental model that people can use, but the overarching narrative is one of AI augmentation and not automation or competition. And so what we do in this first week is to really facilitate this mindset shift and teach a few prompting techniques on top of a chain of thought reasoning, which is few shot prompting, reverse prompting, all ways in which you can interact with these AI models in a more successful way. Then what we do in week 2 is actually to teach people how to build some of these assistants and agents. And so we would walk them through building the so-called custom GPTs, which have different names across all providers, but they're effectively pre-programmed version of an LLM. that are really good at one particular task. And then in week 3, we open up the AI ecosystem beyond LLMs. We look at tools like Perplexity, Gamma, Napkin AI, Suno, Notebook LM, other AI tools that can help people increase their productivity. And we've seen the practical exercises, we've seen the curriculum. We also, as I was saying, we also walk people through use cases. So on top of going through the curriculum, you're given longer assignments. You might think about essays or just longer, more structured exercises, which walk you through how you can apply AI for one specific task that the algorithm has picked up in the initial personalization. So here, for example, use AI Assistant as a reusable Slack communication workflow for local organizer coordination. And so there is effectively create an assistant that can help you answer a lot of the questions that you get from the organizers, which would really simplify the way in which you can respond to all these customer or partner queries that you get. Now, another one, Gamma Proposal Generator. Use an AI assistant to produce Gamma-ready proposal draft that matches your standard building blocks. So here, the idea is I create an assistant that can help me to prepare the bullets for a PowerPoint presentation, summarizing information. And Tim, if you agree, I will actually demonstrate this use case showing something that I've built on the back of the program a few months ago, if you think it's
Yeah,
going to be useful.
yeah. I think that's always useful to do a bit of a live demo and see what you can do. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, here's my ChatGPT account, and you see a lot of these custom GPTs. And what I'm going to be using is the Gamma Deck Builder, which turns research reports into slide decks for Gamma. So all I need to do is to copy and paste the report, and this custom GPT is trained, has been given instructions to just extract the key messages out of the report. And I'm going to be doing this with the UK AI Young People Study.
Awesome. And this is literally fresh off the printing press. This is a report we'll be launching on Monday. So all of you on the webinar today getting a sneak peek of some of the work that we've done in this latest report. But yeah, great. Interested to see how it pulls it together.
Exactly. And Tim, let's make your work easier, and let's actually have you prepare the presentation here on the spot with my Gamma Deck Builder. So why don't you dictate what you would want the presentation to focus on? Like 10 slides on the key messages or what some particular areas.
Okay. I would like a slide deck that presents this report and shows the 10 key recommendations and also then provides a bit of context for each of those recommendations. This would be a very useful document that I can then share with our members and with government officials so that they can understand what is in the full report, and they will then be encouraged to read the full report and action it. So in effect, this will be a summary, but it needs to have lots of nice hooks to get people's attention and to bring them in to find more information.
That's an excellent prompt, Tim.
Thanks.
So let's choose the model here for the sake of, for the sake of this, I should be choosing a thinking model, but I don't want us to spend too long on this. So I will try with an instant model. So it just means that the model is a little less powerful. But we have a good back of some good instructions in the back, so it should work. All right, Tim, tell me what you think. young people and AI, defining policy moment, why this matters now, key risks emerging, key opportunity. And then we go into more specific findings.
Yeah, I think one thing that might be good to do is to ask it to create more of an executive summary. So should we ask it to do that?
Actually, I wanted to create the slides, if you agree.
I mean, the first slide could be an executive summary.
Okay, so you want to have slide one should be an executive summary that basically summarizes everything else.
And then, yeah, and then move everything down.
This is excellent, but we would like to have a first slide that summarizes all of the findings of the report, keeping the rest exactly as it is. Please make just this change now. And I could have done this in a canvas. I will show later if we have time what a canvas is. There you go. Well, you see that this
Great,
basically added that
great. Yeah,
first.
thank you. Because yeah, that's good.
And it has kept pretty much the text as it is. Let's give a quick check. Yes. And so what do we do with this? Well, we would spend some time editing it. Of
Yeah,
course, for the sake of argument, I want to show you the entire flow. So we're just going to be taking this. And what we do is to put it in Gamma. So Gamma is a PowerPoint or PowerPoint-like presentation maker. You have different options. You can create from a template, from a file, from a prompt. We tend to be using the pasting text. We want with this AI workflows, it's always good to break things into different blocks so that you really keep ownership on the content and you can make changes more easily. And you see that I've programmed my agent so that I can basically copy paste the text with minimum changes because I'm already separating it with the right separators. And so all I need to do is to paste the content. I can choose a few options here. Okay, minimal
yeah.
amount
Let's go with
of
the
text.
minimal. I think that's good. Yeah. I think that's one of the challenges that we often face when using Gamma or other tools is just trying to get the right level of content on each slide. I tend to like quite minimal slides with images, visual analogies, and minimal text because I like to then talk around those particular themes. Other people like to have lots of text on there, and you know that everyone's got their different preferences, but that's all in this of in these customization settings you can put in here.
And I don't have, you can add your custom theme. I don't have yet the UK AI theme, so I will choose a matching green, matching the wonderful green that you've chosen for the colors. Then we can choose the image style. I think we will stick to illustrations. And you could also be suggesting your image style. But I really want us to see Gamma in action, so let's move forward. And the generation is pretty much instant. And Gamma would go through all of those bullets. And on the basis of those bullets, it's putting together a nice looking PowerPoint-like presentation. That, Tim, you can use on Monday or Tuesday if you would like after doing some further editing.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. And it's I mean, this is one of the examples that I think, you know, if you think back over the last 20 years, how much time people spend on making PowerPoint presentations. And you've just shown us how to do it in what, like 10 minutes. And you could be a lot more efficient in that. Obviously, we've done a lot of talking, but it's such a time saver. And you imagine this is just one use case. There are so many other use cases, but it's hopefully the people on the audience here you're getting that sense of from this live demo, that sort of what I call the sort of the sort of the lean forward magic moment when you're like, oh right, now I get it, you know. And imagine if we're feeling that this is what we're trying to bring alive for people across our organizations. We need all of them to have that same lean forward, oh right, now I get it moment. And that's really only something you can do with these practical examples. One, because it's happening in front of you, like it was just then, but also because now it's really contextualized to your organization and people in your organization because they're putting their data in,
Exactly.
their presentations in. So connecting those two things up is really, really important.
Exactly. Precisely. And the point here is not that these slides are perfect. Uh, the point is that you have just saved, as you were saying, Tim, 2 or 3 hours creating something that already looks really good. And you can actually spend more time thinking about the structure, what should go into it, the flow, and all of this is, it's not a black box again. It's all editable. You can export it to PDF, PowerPoint, Google Slides, individual images, so you can work on it in the way that is best for you. And you can make changes directly in Gamma. Let's pick one slide, Tim, that you don't like. Stop me.
That
Easy.
one weird, yeah. What's going on there? All the others look quite nice. AI can transform young lives if done right, and then that box, the catch. What does that? I can't actually see what it says, but it looks a bit weird.
Well, tell me how you want to change it. Go ahead.
Um, can we have an image here that summarizes this slide and matches the illustrative style on the other slides?
Yes. Tim, you're a very good prompt engineer.
Oh, thank you. I think it's probably, we spend a lot of time, don't we? I mean, this is kind of what we do day in, day out. So,
Well,
it's really
ultimately, to a significant extent, prompt engineering is about good delegation. So are you able to explain to the models what you want them to do in the most effective way? And so good managers are typically also good prompt engineers.
that's
Okay.
that's a really intriguing insight in its own right. I think we could do a whole webinar just on the skills which managers need to have in the age of AI. But we'll save that one for another time.
Yeah. So we can reshuffle things. You see, we've got an AI generated image about transformation. We can move this here. We can reshuffle the content a little bit. I still don't like it.
But yeah, we
The
get the idea.
content doesn't look great. Can you please reformat this so the image and the 4 text boxes are actually well aligned and occupy the space in a coherent and visually attractive fashion? And so the agent, as they call it on Gamma, would go and execute on this and reposition the text. As this is going, are there any more questions, Tim, on this?
Yeah, we do. We've got a question from Natasha here. Stefano, from your experience, do you recommend organizations to have regular refresher AI courses? In our business, we have annual refresher courses for certain topics for all employees. However, with AI and speed, the speed it is moving, we found that we can't do annual refreshers. And then the second question, how has this issue built in with Mindstone? If I complete a course, what if the content changes in a few months?
It's a fascinating question. Very, very good point. So we deal with this in 2 ways. When we work with an organization, and I mean, I think it's totally right that annual refresher courses are not sufficient. And so the extent of experimentation, learning by doing, and informal learning is a lot more pronounced with AI than with other technologies. It's not the sort of thing where you just take a course every year or every couple of years and you refresh your skills. So we solve this in two ways. For all people that go through our program, we offer a milestone subscription that basically gives you access to all of the content from our meetups around the world and identifies out of all the videos that we publish, we nearly have 800 videos in our library, it identifies those that are more relevant to you. So you get 15 minutes video pills on AI workflows that show what other people who are at the frontier of AI usage are doing. And so in my case, for example, automating sales workflows, AI security, all things that I need to be worrying about, turning personas into teammates. And so these are all AI experts that are presenting in all of these milestone events across the world. So we do this for individual users. With organizations, we also offer coaching sessions. So the idea being you do not just complete our program, the 4-week program that I've shown, but at least once a month you reconvene with a milestone coach and you ask questions. The coach might show a few tricks that you have not come across. And so that moment, that relationship, that interaction with the coach becomes an important moment that keeps the momentum going and allows people to stay up to date.
Great. Thank you. And I'm just going to encourage people, if they have any other questions now, we've got sort of 7 or 8 minutes left today. So now is the time to put a few more questions in there. I will just make sure we've got any other questions. Stefano, I'll let you sort of wrap up.
Yes, let's give a moment. I love answering questions. Let's see if there are more.
I'm also just going to pull up something from the background here as well, so make sure we've got all that ready. So yeah, I'll get the link for the course as well. Great. Well, just while we're sort of wrapping things up there and see if anyone else has any other questions, I think the thing for me about driving AI competency is this kind of actual practical side to it. And humans fundamentally are, there's two things that humans like. And I think one is they like to play. Now that is very early in our development. As kids, we start playing. And as adults, we get very serious, but really so much psychological research now shows the importance of play for adults as well. Not just, playing with Lego as stress toys and stuff like that, but actually in our work, we need to play. And it's fun sometimes just to play around with tools and to play around with things. And play is actually really important because it's kind of like the way our brain figures out how to learn. The two things are very integrated there. So I think that for me is one of the things that makes practical AI really, really interesting. And the other part of it is really just in terms of like, actually, how do we start to get, how do we start with this? How do we actually sort of make sure that it's relevant to us? And so rather than thinking about this as something which is a training course where you're going to get some information about that you might have read in a business book, it's actually about how do we start with something which is one of our problems, one of our personal issues? How do we increase our productivity or our efficiency? And you make it about your own personal situation. And then the third thing I think is storytelling as well, because that's another fundamental part of the human brain. Is we're designed to tell stories. Before we had the ability to write things down or to record things, it was all about communication and telling stories. And so our brains are hardwired to tell stories. And it's part of AI adoption for the leaders to tell those stories, to empower people, but also for everybody in the organization to be able to tell those stories. But the stories have to be grounded in the fact that you found it fun, which is again back to the playing point, and the fact that it's relevant to you and that you can make the stories relevant to other people, which you can only do if you've actually done it. If you've played around with AI and it's based upon a task that you've got, which other people in your organization can actually tap into. So I think those are three fundamental areas. I've got a question here from Malcolm, who also spotted your nice posters on the wall behind you there, Stefano. He said, a cheeky one, what would Fidel Castro make of AI? Good for the people? Question mark.
I mean, let's take a look. We can ask our agentic AI system. But before we do that, I guess it would depend on ownership, right? I mean, being a Marxist or a communist, I guess if AI were to be publicly owned, it would probably be supportive. The problem would be in the ownership, not as much in the impact of the technology. That would be my short answer in the interest of time. But in the meantime,
Yeah,
we could
exactly.
be asking AI what Fidel Castro would think about AI. What do you think, Tim?
I'm not sure whether we quite have time, but I think you've answered it very well in what you said there. It is around the ownership. I mean, that's classically where Marxists, well, the whole concept of socialism and communism starts is with the ownership of capital. And in this case, I've heard that knowledge and technology is almost becoming like capital now. That's kind of like certainly a sort of a theory that I'm hearing within sort of AI intellectual circles. I'm not in those circles, but I hear other people talking about them. And I think that is right, that it's a sort of like, you treat the technology now like capital. And in what gave rise to Marxism and communism, socialism, was the rise of the Industrial Revolution, where the wealth, the capital, was handled by a small few people. And in the same way, is that happening now? If so, then how do we ensure that more people have access to the technology which is going to be able to transform their lives? So, yeah, big topic. Not sure we can do it justice or cover it in this webinar, but Malcolm, I mean, you've given us an idea for another event, so maybe we'll have to pick that one up another time. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to kind of just kind of wrap up and sort of close things off here, Stefano, and tell us a little bit more about, what would the next steps be from your perspective? What would you recommend?
Yeah, just get curious. Show up to one of our meetups, London, Cambridge, Bristol, Newcastle, Leeds, in April, and get in touch with me if you would like to find out more about what Mindstone could do for you as an individual, for your organization. I think, Tim, you can pass on my contact details.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as UK AI members, you also get discounts for Mindstone. So we'll be sending out a follow-up email with details of that, with this video, and with more information of that. And it's a kind of partnership that we've been developing over the last few months now. And as I mentioned, we've also got meetups, practical AI meetups happening in Leeds, trying to remember the dates, 28th of April, Newcastle, 29th of April, and Manchester, which we need to confirm the dates on, but that'll be end of May, plus a few more cities to come. So we're really excited about bringing people together and actually doing this, not just virtually in real time with these live demos, but doing it in person in those venues, with the added advantage that afterwards there's pizza and beer. And I'm making myself hungry now, but it's probably a reflection of it's lunchtime. But with that, I'd like to thank our audience today for great questions and for sharing in this practical webinar today. I hope it's been useful. I hope there's a few nuggets there you can take back. There's certainly a few ideas that I've got for how we can follow up on some of these discussions. But most of all, I'd like to thank Stefano. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights with us today and give us a bit of a flavor of how we can be building AI competency in the team. Thank you, Stefano.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone.